Welcome, everybody. I was sitting and talking to Sally after the spring game and a couple of days later, and we thought about how fortunate we are to be here and get to coach these young people. You want a purpose, and you want a purpose in life, and there's no better time when you got COVID issues, you got social justice issues, transfer portal issues, NIL differences, and more mental health problems in the country than ever before. And in our world, there's never been a time that leadership's needed more. So you feel really, really needed for these young people, and to sit and help them and guide them and navigate them through all the different things that are going on. So winning's very important, and you can't get all the things done you need to do unless you win. But at the same time, coaches are supposed to mentor young people. That's what you do. That's what you got in this business to do. And as I said, I read yesterday that more mental health issues and more suicides right now than ever before. So we all have to take care of each other, but one of the real important duties of our staff is to make sure that we're helping and taking care of our guys and helping them move forward. There's been so much talk about NIL. I thought about, we always talk about all the negatives of NIL. There are a lot of positive things, and I just wanted to talk about them a little bit. The players have to learn to make money, and that's what everybody does when they get out. So all we're doing is we're making them grow up a little bit faster, and they're learning how to make money at an earlier age. Then they have to learn how to deal with an agent, whether it's a marketing agent or an agent. If that agent's going to help them with opportunities, because that's what this is supposed to be about, then they have to learn how to deal with saving that money and using that money, but they also have to learn about taxes. And those are things that we didn't learn at an early age. It was later. And now they're being forced to grow up much earlier, but then they're also learning about internships. Because a lot of our program with NIL is to get an internship for a young guy that's going to work with somebody now in a trade that they'd like to work with when they get through. So we're speeding that process up, and it's really a good process, and that'll help them with life after football. The other thing is they were learning to give back to charities. So Sam was one of the first one to give money to needy people and to give money for charities. So a lot of these things are really, really positive as we go through. Tylee and his family right now, his NIL opportunity with his T-shirts can help his family at a time where he needs money. So we talk about the bad all the time. There's also a lot of good. And I like the way Heals for Life, that is the group that's helping our players, is working with those opportunities, because they're helping them with opportunities. They're doing it within the rules. It's not a recruiting pitch. It's not a pay for play, because that's not what it's supposed to be about. Some people are abusing those rules, which you always have people that go beyond and break rules. And the people that are abusing those rules are overloading a lot of our boosters, because boosters are helpful in so many ways anyway, and now you're asking them for other things to do. So I like the fact that our Heals for Life people talk to them about taking the taxes out of the opportunities when it happens. It's totally outside of the realm of our football program, but our guys are handling it well. And then we have some young guys I hear that they go and they want to buy some expensive shoes. Why? Because they got extra money. Well, we've got to help them learn how to save their money and make sure that they use it in proper ways. So there are a lot of learning opportunities here. And like I said, it's been used and abused by some universities that cheat. They were cheating before, and they're cheating now. And it wasn't supposed to be used for recruiting inducements. It is. It wasn't supposed to be used for pay for play. It is. There are incentives, I've been told, across the country that some people are saying, if you do this, you're going to get paid for it. That was not the way the NIL was set up. So what we need is we need to take it as a positive, use it as a positive, help young guys with it, but at the same time get some guidelines. And that's what happens with everything. And then we go to the transfer portal. It's the same thing. We had our first guy from the class of 22, I think, a Utah receiver that went into the portal. The first year, you have to lay out 2 years if you go in the portal. It's not that you can transfer and be eligible immediately. So the national letter of intent makes you wait that first year, which is a good rule. And now they're looking at guidelines to see, like you can't go into the portal after May 1st and be eligible immediately. If you go in after May 1st, you will have to have an appeal and lay out like the old days. And then they're looking at the possibility of you can't go into the portal till the season's over. I think that's good because we're encouraging people to leave after the third game if they're mad, or after the fifth game. And that's not healthy for anybody involved. And we are looking aggressively at the portal. I mean, we'll look, every guy that goes in the portal, we look at it now. He has to be a perfect fit academically. He has to be a perfect fit with his character and socially. And we don't want to bring someone in that's not starting. And I will say that Spencer Rollin will be here at the end of May. We haven't seen him. We haven't seen him on the field. We haven't seen him work. Corey Gaynor's been a real plus at center for us from Miami, and Noah Taylor's been maybe our best pass rusher. So the two that we have on campus have really been a plus. And I will say that so many of the transfer portal guys are asking for NIL deals before you meet them. These three ask for nothing except they want a great education, they want to go to graduate school, they want to win all the games, they want to go to the NFL. So you got to find the perfect fit. And there's a lot of misnomers out there about it. And I think the worst thing right now with transfer portal is that people are recruiting your players off your own campus. And that needs to stop. And that's a hard one. It's really hurting FCS. The best players in FCS are gone. And that's a tough, so you're changing the culture of FCS football. But at the same time, when we've got people on our campus that people are calling and offering them money to go to another school, that's not the way this thing is supposed to be. So there are some things that we have to make sure that we change with the portal. Our recruiting's going well. We had the perfect scenarios last year of the big in-state guys and the Virginia guys that committed early. That hasn't happened yet, but we're in the middle of a lot of great recruits that we feel like as soon as we start getting official visits, those will start falling into place. But we feel like that we've got a good list and we're recruiting well. Our offensive focus for spring practice, we said fewer sacks, fewer tackles for loss. We had too many penalties. All of those were better this spring. And I love the fact that Coach Bicknell has familiarity with the offense and with Coach Longo and with Coach Porter. That was a huge plus for us, and that was the reason he was able to come in so quickly and mesh with the staff, because he'd been there and done that, and I really like what I'm seeing with him. So we worked so much on situations this spring, making sure that we're better on first down, which gets us shorter third downs. And by being in a position to have third and short instead of third and long, it's going to keep you on the field more. And I think I said this at an earlier press conference, but we found that we used to say get 4 yards on first down. We found that you need 5, because if you make 5 yards in Power 5 football last year on first down, you had 60% chance of making first downs. If you were less than 5, then obviously the defense has 60% chance of getting off the field. So instead of a 4-yard first down measurement, we've gone to 5. And that's very, very important going through. We haven't been good in 1 minute at the end of the game. So we're going to work on that so much more. And that's something that we've got to do. We've lost entirely too many close games where we've had a chance at the end that didn't finish, whether they're overtime games or whether they're 1 minute at the end. We've been good in 1 minute before the half, but not good at the end of the game. So we've got to do a much better job in that area. We really emphasized lower red zone, 9 yards and in. This spring, we hit more in that area than we've ever hit, because we've got to get better in that area, and we know it. We were miserable against Miami with 4-minute offenses last year. We had 2 3-and-outs when we had a chance to close out the game, and we had a 10-point lead and let them catch up and have a chance to win. And we've got to score more touchdowns and field goals when we get in the red zone. And there was only one injured player on offense that did not get to play this spring, and that's Kendall Carr. And he's had a couple of setbacks since he's been here, but he should be well for the fall in preseason. So we feel good about him moving forward, and hopefully he'll be ready to go. Defensively, with new coaches, Coach Chiswick and Coach Warren, they both made a really seamless transition too, because I knew Coach Chiswick and they've been here before. So like Coach Bicknell, there were a lot of easy things for them to do. We had a Zoom when both of them first got here, and we got on with a lot of boosters, and it was like old home week. They all knew them and laughing and cutting up about the 15 and 16 seasons. The star position is the nickel position, and they think he can be a star because he's going to be a linebacker type drop, come after the quarterback position. The jack position for the name is jack of all trades. He can rush, he can drop, he can blitz. So there are a lot of different things that he can do. And obviously the focus goes back to stopping the run on first down. We haven't done that well for 3 years. And until we get that done, we're not going to be where we want to be. And that's really, really important. So stop the run on first down, then you have a chance to force turnovers. And we haven't done either very well. Because when you're in second long, third and long, you can disrupt the quarterback and tip balls and knock balls loose and have a better chance to force turnovers. And we've got to be more consistent. We played great defense some last year, and then we just gave up a big play. And that comes from the elimination of explosive plays usually comes from doing a better job communicating. We had a lot of players that missed spring practice with injuries on defense. Kendrick Bingley Jones has had 3 operations since he's been here. He should be fully well for preseason and ready to go. Day Hollins is on his second. He missed spring. Kamen Rucker's a guy that we've got to figure out, does he play power end? Does he play jack? Does he play both? And our new coaches have to go back and evaluate all these guys on video because they haven't seen them on the field, and that'll be important. Ray Vahasic's one of our best leaders and one of our best players. All these guys will be 100% to start the fall. Ethan West has had a number of injuries and operations since he's been here, so he should be back for the fall. Jaquarius Conley could be limited going into fall camp. We hope he'll be ready for the first game, but he's a key player that we haven't seen. Jaleel Taylor got hurt in the bowl game. He will be out for fall camp. Tayon Holloway he had actually 2 shoulder operations, and he will not be ready for the fall. He'll be here, he'll be working out, but he'll be in rehab. Tamari Fox was denied his appeal. He'll participate in practice in the fall, but cannot play in the games. Jeremy's sending a statement out from Tamari today. He's got a tremendous attitude. He had a great spring, and we're going to miss him. And I'm really concerned about the penalty. I don't think the penalty's fair. Here's a young guy that got some advice from somebody and drank something out of a bottle that I would have drunk, and then he loses his entire year. So I don't think the penalty fits the crime at all. I think it's an outdated penalty because at one point when the steroids were so bad is when the penalty was put in. It hadn't been adjusted. And I think at a time where we're reaching out and trying to help young guys with transfer portal, and we're reaching out and trying to help them with NIL, how in the world can we have somebody who drank the wrong stuff that was in his locker that he was told he could drink by somebody and messed up, lose an entire year? It's totally unfair to him. And he is a great kid. And he walked immediately to his locker and pulled what he was drinking out and said, "Coach, I bought this over at the grocery store." And I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. So I think it's wrong. I think it's unfair for him. Obviously, he drank something he shouldn't have, but he wasn't trying to beat the system, or he sure wouldn't have had it in his locker. And I hate it for him, but he's going to stay, and he's going to work really hard, and he'll be back. I just hope that the NCAA will look at that penalty and see if they think that is still fair after all these years. Special teams, we've got to do better. We were the best at blocking punts in the country. We were one of the worst at punting, having 4 block punts. We still haven't gotten Josh Downs the punt returns that we should, and we weren't very good at kickoff returns. So I feel like Larry Porter and all the coaches are involved, and we're doing a better job in that area. Jonathan Kim, who's maybe the best kickoff guy in the country, did a good job with field goals this spring. He's got a great leg, and he gets it up. We just got to continue to work on consistency. And Ben Kiernan and Cole Maynard both punted really well. Cole's going to be really good as a walk-on freshman. So those two will have a battle as they get ready to go into the fall. We're working really, really hard. Our blue team is our, quote, first team, which means that's who we trust to be on the field at any time during a game. Our white team is our second team, and our gray team is our third team. We don't like to call people 2s and 3s because it's demeaning to them. So we're working really, really hard to get as many blue team members as we trust as we can. So if you can get 22 on offense that can play and 22 on defense that can play, and you say, go in, that's our goal. And we won't be great as a program until we get there. It helps you with morale. It helps you with the transfer portal. It helps you develop players, and it helps you stay healthy because you're not as tired when you're in the game. So all of those things are really, really good. And our blue team and our white team are getting closer together, which means you've got more guys that you trust to go ahead and put in the game. And then all those guys are actually starting, and you can say next group. You don't have to worry as much about each individual. Spring practice, I saw a better coach team than I saw last year. I saw more discipline. I saw a team more competitive. Last year I spent so much time talking about lack of penalties and got to cut them out. And I was actually bringing in video and showing to the coaches about how many players were loafing, and we got to stop it. And we didn't do a good job of getting a consistent football team on the field. This spring, we had a consistent, disciplined football team that competed every day, and they had better discipline. Still got things that we've got to do, and they've got to carry that over to fall, but felt really, really good about the way they worked and getting the things back in order that we need to be a good football team. Off-season program is going to be really, really important because we're so young. You got to get them to flex more. Guys that are a little stiff. That way you can improve they can have prevention of injury better. You can improve their speed, but we've got to improve our strength. And all those things will be stuff that we will continue to work on. Our quarterbacks and wide receivers, because they're all so young, will need to have a great summer. They can work on their own. We can't be out there with them. And we've got to continue to work really hard to teach leadership and find out who the leaders are and teach them and have more leadership step up for our team. And that's been a huge plus for us, we feel like, this spring, as guys are wanting to lead. And you've got to learn how to lead to do that, and we're trying to coach them. We've lost entirely too many close games. And we won all the close games at Texas. It was one of the things I was most proud of at our 16 years at Texas. Very seldom did we lose a game that we had a chance to win in the fourth quarter, and that has not been the case here. So we've lost too many close games, and we've lost too many games on the road. And good teams win close games, and good teams win on the road. And that's the next step that we've got to take. You go back to Pitt last year, we're in a position to win the game. We drop an interception late. We've got the game in hand there at the end, and we can't score when we've got the ball first and goal from the 2. You got to win that game. And Pitt was the best team in our league and one of the top teams in the country and listed as a top 8 team next year. And that's how close we are, but you can't be close without finishing. And we got to do it. NC State got a 9-point lead with 4 minutes left. Number one, we should have scored on offense instead of kicked a long field goal and put the game away. But when you got a 9-point lead, you got to get the onside kick. You got to play better in the secondary. You win those 2 games, we got a different season. And then we play better in the bowl game. So it's real, it's there. We understand it, and we've got to do it. Opening schedule for next year, Florida A&M comes in, and we're going to honor HBCUs with that game. And we got some cool things we're talking about. But they've won back-to-back 9-win seasons. So they've done a good job with those last 2 years. App State has been to a bowl game every year they've gone to Major League Football. They're 6-1 in those bowl games, but for their 7 years, they're really tough to beat anyway. They've got a great program. They're harder to beat in Boone. And we go up there the second week. In the last 2 years, they've been 12-1 and 11-3 with two different head coaches. So these guys know how to win, and that'll be a great challenge for us. They actually beat us and South Carolina on the road in 2019. So they embrace these type games. And then Georgia State has back-to-back bowl wins. They just had the best season in their school history, and they've got everybody back. So our first 3 games that people might have thought wouldn't have been as hard 3 years ago are all very challenging now. Then you've got an open date, and you've got Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, both in Chapel Hill. That should be great experiences. And then you go to Miami, who's got a great quarterback. And strangely enough, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, and Miami all have new coaches. So that'll be unique and new as we look forward to starting in the fall. Questions?
Regarding tomorrow, what kind of recourse do you guys have?
We've got none. We had an appeal, and we took an appeal for Tamari to the NCAA, and they denied it. And that's all we can do. We can't do anything else. And I do think it's really sad. I think it's wrong. I think it's something the NCAA really needs to look at, and they need to change.
How does he handle that?
He's been unbelievable. He's been so honest. He just said, "Coach, help me, man," and we have tried. But he has been great. He doesn't think it's fair, but he also understands the rules rule, and that he broke what is the rule as of now. He didn't realize it, and that's what I hate so much, because I wouldn't have thought it was a rule either with what he drank. I mean, it's just so sad for him. And we just got to keep him involved and make sure he can't travel. I don't even think he can't be on the sideline. All he can do is practice, so they take away his life as a football player. So we've got to really make sure that we help support him and keep him up through the year.
What did he take? Can you tell us what he took? The fact that he's the only one who had it?
I don't know all the details, but I think there's a Gatorade that's just like the other Gatorade, and one of them's got a little bit of something in it, and one of them doesn't. And they're both sold in stores, and he picked up the wrong one. That's how simple it is. So I hate it.
Mack, the timeline on that, was that between the state game and the bowl game? Because he couldn't play in the bowl game. Or you guys
Yes.
held him out?
It was a little bit before that, but
Yeah.
we were working through it.
So,
Yeah, there's an NCAA test.
NC State game.
I'm sorry?
And then, so you were working on it, but then the ruling came down after the NC State game?
We were advised for him to not play.
Yes.
Mack, NFL draft coming up around the corner. What do you think about how Sam Howell's been evaluated and how he's being discussed?
Coach,
What?
Before we get into that, gang, it wasn't a Gatorade product. It was a pre-workout product. I'm not going to get into which one it was. I just don't want the Gatorade
Okay.
to be out there. It's a pre-workout drink.
Got it. 47 years of watching the draft as a coach, what I realize is that nobody knows what's going to happen. And if it only takes one team to draft you, and there's so much talk between now and draft day, and has been over the last 3 or 4 months about who's going to be drafted where. It just takes one team to draft you, and they're not going to tell you they're going to draft the guy because they don't want anybody else to know it. So that's why you got to watch the draft. I've told guys, don't have parties on draft day because you have no clue what's going to happen. Have your parties after you sign that contract. So I think the biggest thing is what we do as coaches. Our responsibility is to continue to have contact with those guys and try to help them as much as we can with workouts. But on draft day, continue to have contact with them. And if they're not drafted, it's more important for us to have contact with them than if it is. If it is, you congratulate them. If it's not, you try to help them get a spot as a free agent.
Do you think Sam's a franchise quarterback in the NFL?
Yes.
Coach,
And somebody will be lucky to get him. Yes.
Coach, leadership is an aspect that you said you wanted to improve. Could you talk about how Corey Gaynor has infused your locker room leadership?
Yes, Brian Anderson has been a great leader for us. And Brian had a procedure done on his ankle in preseason last year. We thought he'd be fine, and he wasn't well all year. So it really hurt us at center, and it hurt us as a team. And if you're not good at center, you're probably not going to be good as a team. So Corey has come in and played really, really well this spring, but he has also been a very positive attitude and confident attitude in the locker room. And we've needed that. And at the same time, he and Brian are getting along great, and Brian continues to lead. So we feel like from going to not having Brian able to play in the opening game with Virginia Tech last year, Curion Johnson playing and getting a high ankle sprain during the game, we didn't have a center. And it really affected us. And then we looked at a lot of different players in there, and Caden Baker, and we just kept trying to move around and find something. But it was a problem all year. So right now we've got Corey Gaynor, who's a 3-year starter at Miami. We've got Brian Anderson, who's a 3-year starter here. We've got Curion Johnson, who played most of last year at center and guard. So we've gone from a position of weakness to a position of strength. And you need to be good down the middle. So we're really, really excited about what Corey has brought to us.
Do you anticipate Q starting next season, not at center, but somewhere along the line?
I'm sorry?
Do you anticipate Q starting on the line next season, maybe not at center, but at one of the other?
We've got to look at that right now. I think Q would be considered to be in that blue team group that we can put in at center or at guard at any time and make that work. So he is a guy that we trust.
What about the NIL cheating? Is this really prevalent? And have you had examples of guys on your team that have come to you and said that somebody from the school has offered me this to hop in the portal and do it?
Yes, there are people that are going beyond what they're supposed to do with NIL. Absolutely, 100%. And we have had players on our team that have been approached by other teams. It's usually through a player. So it's not tampering, they think, if they're not calling, if they're not talking. But if it's a high school teammate or another player, then it gets very, very gray. So you have to recruit your players to get them here. Then you have to recruit your players to stay. And then when you look at transfer portal, a whole lot of the issues that you have to look at character, you have to look at grades, but a lot of the transfer portal guys, it's about the NIL opportunities that they have before you can get them too. So it's prevalent, it's real, it's an issue for all of us, and it's something that needs to be looked at very closely. Like I said, there are a lot of good things that we don't talk about because the bad things are so big. So I understand all the good that we've gotten out of it, but it needs to be looked at over here, or we're going to lose who we are as college football.
I'm not sure if you've seen what Dabo and Coach Saban has said here in recent days. Coach Saban said the current setup is not sustainable, especially for the bigger programs, and it's not a key part of it. Is this an example that there needs to be a different overseeing body specifically for college football? And is that the first thing that they need to fix, is what's going on with the NIL and cheating?
I think we've got to look at the transfer portal, and they're doing that. So I really think that will be better. And I don't mind kids transferring if that's better for them. I've got it. I just like guidelines. But the NIL is harder to fix because what do? How do you stop it? You don't want to do away with it. But how do you put the guardrails up? How do you put the guidelines up? And I agree with whatever Nick and Dabo said, that I don't think it's good and I don't think it's sustainable with the bad things that are happening with NIL, and it needs to be addressed and it needs to be stopped, or it's going to change the direction of college football.
On the good side of that, of NIL, like a year ago, there were just so many unknowns about what it would be, what it would look, just the whole 9 yards. The way Sam went about it, the charitable aspect of it, I mean, I don't know if pleasantly surprised is the right word, but what did you think about just the way he approached his NIL opportunities and how giving he was with the things that he did?
When NIL came up, none of us really knew what it meant. And we didn't know where it was going, and we didn't know what would happen. And Sam handled it more mature than anybody could have ever handled it. He wouldn't do any opportunity without involving his teammates or without it being for charity. I mean, people offered him a suit to go to the ACC Media Day. He said, not unless my teammates get suits too. The first opportunity was to feed underprivileged kids in Orange County. He had a photo shoot with one opportunity, and he wanted all the offensive linemen with him. So Sam was a dream as a player, as a teammate, and as an initial meaning for NIL for us. And you hear players coming to coaches and asking for deals, and I'm not going to play unless I get this deal, and we've had none of that. Our players have been so good, and I think that credit should go to our players, but also to Heels for Life, because they're the ones that are working hard to get opportunities for players that deserve it. And that's the way it's supposed to work, and I have to applaud the people that set that up for us moving forward.
How have you seen Tommy respond to his diagnosis and just how the team's kind of helping out through it?
Tylee's been great. He goes from bending over, holding his back in an elevator with my wife Sally, and they thought it was a cramp, to a few days later being in a hospital with a CAT scan with someone telling him he's got cancer. So the first thing we had to do is ask September, his mom, who is a police officer in South Carolina, and him, what he wants to say. Do you want this to be very private? That's going to be difficult, but what he wants to say. And the first thing they said is, tell the truth. I got cancer, it's not good, we're going to fight it. So then he dropped out of school. He has had a tremendous attitude. The coaches have been rotating, taking meals over to he and his mom. He's actually at home now for a week or so before he has to have another treatment. He has had chemo twice. They feel like that they've had some positive reaction to it. But he's upbeat. It's taught our team that there's a lot more important things than things we worry about every day. When you want to take care of each other and you want to take care of yourself, and that you need to appreciate your health, and that you also need to be able to step up and help and pray for those that aren't as healthy. And he's been around. He was at the spring game the whole day. I worried because it was cold, and I told him, get upstairs, go to the box, go with Sally, go somewhere. And he wanted to stay around and stay on the field. And so he's been at some practices, he's been at some meetings, and we're just hoping and praying. They caught it early. Maybe the back cramps got it where they found out sooner than they could have. He's young, he's healthy, he's got tremendous care. So right now we're feeling very, very positive about moving forward.
In terms of recruiting for this upcoming class, you talked about it briefly, and I know I was kind of looking at some of the dates from the last class when they committed. A little bit behind what maybe you were last year. Could you comment on that? Is that less talent in state, less big names in state, less big names in Virginia? What else is kind of hindering the lack of commitments right now?
Ross, I've tried to figure that out. I've looked at it because I like to get them all committed in February.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been my deal. And right now it's slower. I think in studying it's slower across the country. And people are wanting, since COVID's out of the way, they're actually getting to go take unofficial visits. And it seems like everybody wants to take an unofficial visit, and then they want to take an official visit before they make their decision. And I think a lot of people will be making decisions in May and June. And that's what we're feeling and hearing. Coach, let me come back for an official visit because I want to spend time with players. And the last 2 years, COVID was really difficult for all of us. We talked to the pro scouts, and they said it was hard. I said, yeah, we didn't even get to meet some of the guys we had to sign. It was so crazy. But I feel like we're in good shape. We've got good names. There's a lot of interest. I don't feel like that this year has the same amount of players that last year did in state and even in Virginia. So we're having to go a little bit more out of our footprint, which is tougher because I'd rather sign the guys closer to home. So I think that's slowing us down some. Probably change of coaches. You change 3 key positions. and they did not have background in recruiting your footprint, so then they have to reintroduce themselves, and that slows things down a little bit more. But I feel good.
If I can add a quick question to that, specifically on defense, did it also change maybe some of the types of players you're going after because of the change in defense? So you have to maybe start a little bit from behind with some of these kids?
Yeah, Andrew, it's a good point. We had Coach Bicknell go over every offensive lineman that we had on our board, and he needed to like them. And then we've had to call the offensive lineman and say that I'm not going to take you if Coach Bicknell doesn't want you. Or Coach Bicknell might say, here's another one I like better than the one we had. So you go through that process. And then you have to go through the process of Coach Chiswick and Coach Warren looking at every prospect on the board defensively. Because that's Gene makes that decision, then brings it to me, and I make the final decision. But we're not going to take a player at any position unless the position coach wants him, because it's unfair to bring one in he doesn't want to coach. I tried that once. And I remember it was the safeties coach at one school I coached at said, he's stiff, I don't like him. I liked him, so I signed him. He never let him play because he was stiff, because he wasn't going to change his mind. So I'm not going to take one if the position coach doesn't want him. That just doesn't work. It's not fair to him or the position coach. And then secondly, I'm not going to take one the coordinator doesn't want because he's responsible for winning. And then it has to get to me, and I can make the final decision of if I want him or not. But that process slowed us down because Gene and Charlton had to go back through with Tim and Tommy and Dre on every prospect that we had on the board. And some pop up now that maybe Charlton knew about that we didn't have on our radar. So that's slowed everything down some too.
Do you think you kind of caught up about where you need to be?
I think we are. It's amazing. Every now and then, Pat Suddes will come and say, I got one they want you to watch. And I'd say, really? He needs to be good and he needs to want to come because this is getting late in the process. But I do think because it's a unique year, COVID, coaching changes, that's what's made it a little slower. Ross?
Kind of related to that, the position changes are the new positions you kind of created, I think Coach Chiswick has created, and then players who you recruited for other positions that don't really exist anymore under Bateman's defense. How has that conversation been with moving players around, and maybe there's guys that are struggling to find a spot? You mentioned Rucker, whether he's a jack or a power ed. I mean, how does that kind of operate?
Yeah, it's another good question. Gene's coming up here in a minute, so you can ask him those things too. But I do think that process is slowed with the guys that weren't out there for spring. But all the guys that were out there have found a place. So we feel really, really good with the placement of guys. They all feel comfortable. Nobody's saying, I don't fit. When the first week they were saying, Coach, where am I going to play? And I said, just take a deep breath. We're good. They need to watch you. But the 7 guys that I mentioned are guys that they're going to have to really do a great job in preseason. Now, Ross, I've had them go back and look at every play from last year. Like I had them take every play that Ra played last year and said, watch him before spring practice. Go back and watch Power Eccles because I want you to have some idea of who they are. Where does Gabe Stevens fit? Where does Malachi Henry fit? Because they were outside linebacker type guys, and we don't have that position anymore. But I really feel like that the coaches and the players have done a great job getting on the same page, and we know where everybody fits right now, except for the guys that didn't play. Now, Ray Vahasek, we know because he's going to be a guy that plays nose, but Kamen Rucker could play either. So when you've got guys like Javari Ritzie and Des Evans at power end, and then you add Bo Atkinson, and then you've got guys like Noah Taylor, and you start looking at Chris Collins, and then you've got the young ones coming in. So that's some pretty good depth in there. Where do you put a Kamen Rucker? Is he better off at the power end? Can he play both because he's so smart, or is he such a great pass rusher that he may get in that mix with those others? And I think that's kind of where we are. It's fun, it's exciting, and at the same time, it's key for us to make sure that we put guys in positions and roles that they can be successful.
Coach, were there any positions that you were maybe unsure about coming
I think one of the key spots for us to fill is the star position, which is the nickel position. And that's because you want your best 5 defensive players playing, that 5 defensive backs. So you have to, is Storm Duck going to stay healthy? He actually played in the spring game and played well. So if you've got those 2 corners, is Day Holland's going to be healthy? I thought the most improved player maybe on defense was the most valuable player was Miles Murphy. The most improved player was Dante Belfour. He really did some good things for us. So we're excited about him. So where does he move up? And then if one of those guys plays well enough and you can get enough depth there, do you move one of those corners to nickel, or do you move another safety to nickel to the, quote, star position? So that's one of the things we've got to continue to look at on defense that's important. Offensively, you've got to look at you don't want Bryson Nesbitt playing so much at receiver it takes away from his production at tight end. But you're thin at wide receiver and he's a mismatch. So you've got to be smart in how much you put him out in and how much can he learn. And you don't want to get him so he's not really working enough at either position to be great at either one. You need him to be great at something. So I think he's probably the key for there. And we sat down and are sitting down with every player on the team like we did last year and saying, is there a chance you're going in the transfer portal? If you are, it's before May 1st, we'll help you. Is there a chance that you want to opt out of the season? Is there a chance that you'll opt out of the bowl game? Is there a chance you're going to go to the pros if you're not in the first 3 rounds? If you're a free agent, are you going to leave? Because some of these guys, like a William Barnes and Ed Montelis and Awesome Richards, have 2 years left. So are they going to leave next year, or are they going to stay? So we're trying to get all those questions answered to the best of our ability right now, because roster management is another issue that gets huge out of this whole deal. And they've got to help us. They've just got to tell us. Obviously, Miles Murphy may be a top pro prospect, so you would think he would leave. But if something happens, does he want to stay? Is he going to leave anyway? So we're having very, very candid conversations with each player to try to help us with where we're headed. Anything else?
Coach, I got 2 from the Zoom that I'm going to ask for.
Okay.
This is from CL on NIL. How impactful do you believe it has been in terms of keeping guys both in college and out of the draft, and maybe even out of the transfer portal?
CL, that's a good thought. I haven't thought a lot about it. I do think that I don't think it'll keep people out of the draft, because if they're good enough to go to the draft and make enough money, they're not going to make it up with NIL money in most cases. I do think that we'll probably at some point see some guys going in the transfer portal to improve their stock and see if they can get better opportunities before they come back, or at least weigh their options when they look at it. So I think that's something that we'll continue to see as we grow. But I really think that we've got to get back to what's right. And the NIL money that you're going to make in 99% of the cases is not going to be what you would make in the NFL or what you're going to make for the rest of your life with your degree. So get your internships, get some opportunities to make a little money, but get yourself prepared for life after football. And that's what we've got to be careful, that we see the millions of dollars of figures that are thrown out there. I don't know that some of that's as realistic as people say it is. We're not supposed to be setting up opportunities for play if their own incentives. It seems like that would be for play. If you have to start, if you have to throw this many touchdowns, if you have to win this many games, that seems like to me that's money for play, and that's not what it's supposed to be. So, CL, I think those are things that we're all navigating through again.
Coach, this one from Aaron Beard. It's on handling the 1 minute and 4 minute scenarios. He asked, what is the plan for going about that beyond practice reps for players?
The biggest thing, Aaron, is that we are going to just do it, and we're going to do it live, and especially with young quarterbacks. We were so good on offense 2 years ago that probably because of the way Sam played and the two great receivers and the two great running backs, we had some things that we didn't fix because we scored so many points and we moved the ball so much. And then when you lose those guys, you expose some of the things you need to fix. And those two are things we need to fix. So really your inside run drill is your 4-minute offense and 4-minute defense every day. And we started keeping score in most of the drills that we're doing, especially the team periods, to see who was winning and who was losing. And then we evaluated those situations in every practice, every day, like they were a game, and gave grades to the players. So we feel like that we've already made a tremendous amount of progress. People would say, why didn't you do it before? We didn't need to. We're averaging 40 points a game, and things were good. So last year, we saw some things that were uncovered that weren't good we needed to fix.
Coach, you have a follow-up to that. From a coaching perspective, will you evaluate how you use timeouts in regards to how you're looking at 1 minute and 4 minutes?
Yeah, we can. I know there's always whining about timeouts and when you use them. We look at that every day. And I haven't worried about our timeouts. I think we've used them properly. I've gone back. We've studied analytics. We've studied what we would normally do. I've had 47 years of this. So I think our play selection in 1 minute can improve in some areas. But I really don't think that the timeouts have been an issue.
All right, Coach. I think we're good.
Okay?